Hello there, my name is Anin Azmi and I am one of the trainees for the AIV RCT Virtual Training Program. If you have watched my previous two videos, you might have been getting more and more familiar with Codewiz and Coding School 3. Well, in these next three videos, we are going to explore three different STEM projects that you can try out with your students in order for you and your students to get a deeper understanding of Codewiz, the Coding School 3 platform, writing longer string of code blocks or scripts, and also modify our Codewiz in order for it to run more than just the pre-built sensors. So today we are going to build a non-contact thermometer from scratch using Codewiz and the Coding School 3 platform. If I do my editing right, there's a title card here. So by definition, a thermometer kind of works like a sensor board that detects temperature, but a general clinic thermometer is filled with environment-sensitive mercury, and this mercury expands when it reacts to heat in order to give its user the exact temperature reading. This is something similar to what we have on our sensor board, where the temperature is the input and the temperature reading is the output. However, a thermometer, a general clinic thermometer, is quite limited in what it's able to do. It cannot give you more than the temperature reading. A Codewiz sensor board, on the other hand, if you program it correctly, it should be able to detect not just temperature but also distance. So we can set it to automatically obtain the temperature reading without having to come into physical contact with the subject. You can also program it to make a beeping sound just to indicate that the temperature reading is taken. And then lastly, unlike a general thermometer in the clinics, the doctor will probably have to shake it and wait for a moment for it to go back to room temperature in order to use it for the next user. But for Codewiz, if you program it to become a thermometer, you can actually set it to wait maybe 5 seconds before it goes back to its original state and ready for the next reading. So this 5 seconds is of course programmable. We can change that as how we see fit, and that should be enough time for us to take note of the temperature reading, but fast enough for us to use it for our next subject. So with that, we are going to start with our script objective. Let's say at the end of this script, the Codewiz sensor board should be able to take temperature reading when a subject is less than 8 centimeters from it. And then we would want it to display the temperature reading on its LED visual for about 5 seconds. Then after 5 seconds, we want it to reset itself back to its original state so that we are ready to take another temperature reading. Kind of like a real non-contact thermometer we see every day. So first, let's level up our Codewiz. You might notice here that our Codewiz is looking a little bit different. That is because I have finally remembered to attach the sleeve of the board. So by leveling up, we need to add an additional infrared thermometer sensor on our Codewiz using this SCON port. So remember when I said in the first video that I gave the example of temperature reading, but when we go through our sensor board, we realize that there is no temperature sensor. So that's what I mean by upgrading. You need one of these things. This is called an infrared thermometer scanner, and you can connect this thing using this 4 cable. But in order to connect it to the scanner, you must make sure the color of your cable is in line with this code over here. Now then the code is visible. You know what? I'm just going to have it displayed on screen. So feel free to pause the video to refer to that code. So make sure you are connecting the right cable type to the correct port on your scanner. Okay, so that now that mine is, hopefully correctly connected, I am going to attach the infrared scanner to my SCON port. No. Yeah, there you go. First try. As our Codewiz is already built with a distance sensor, we don't need to add any additional sensors for that. But what we do need is to add a second peripheral, which is called a battery case to the sensor board via this port over here, just opposite of our USB port. Because at the end of the day, we would want this Codewiz sensor to work as a temperature scanner, and we will want to untether it from the computer. So we don't want it to be connected to our computer when we want to go out and take reading of temperature. Unfortunately for me, I think my battery pack or battery case right now is going a little bit faulty. I did drop this once during the assembly of this part just now. So unfortunately, I won't be able to show you how does the project run when it is completely unplugged from the computer. But I'll still show you how the upload process works, and that should give you an idea what to do with your own Codewiz. So on to the next part of the video. And of course, when you are doing that, taking around temperature of the world, you wouldn't want to be carrying around something that looks like this and, you know, shoving it at people's face. That will be very confusing. So what we have here is a laser cutout board of a non-contact thermometer casing that can fit our Codewiz snugly inside.
A few moments later.
Okay, assemble our Codewiz with all the peripherals and casing, and your Codewiz non-contact thermometer build should look something like this. The magic of video editing. Now yes, I can record the step-by-step process on how to assemble the kit and the case, but if I were to include that in this video, that will be an additional 30 minutes to the video. Trust me, I tried. So let's skip ahead to programming your non-contact thermometer with Codewiz and Coding School 3. Okay, now it's time to get it connected to Coding School 3 so we can teach our Codewiz to run its non-contact thermometer function. Before we assemble, remember, you have to connect your Codewiz to your computer, and we're going to inform our Coding School 3 program that an additional sensor has already been added to it. By default, there is not any temperature scanner or temperature sensor on our Codewiz board, as I mentioned before. So if that is the case, we have to tell Coding School 3 that this sensor has been additionally installed. So what we want to do is to go all the way up here and find this EXT menu. We select Codewiz from the pop-up, and at the bottom, select the Wiz input button and add Wiz infrared thermometer to our Coding School 3. So this enables one more set of code blocks to be available. As you can see all the way down here, it is indicated by the infrared thermometer sensor icon. Okay. In the interest of time, the following is a script of code blocks that I've already assembled in order for our Codewiz to work as a non-contact thermometer. At the top, we're using this Codewiz program code block, as we're not just going to get our Codewiz to run the script when it's connected to the computer. So we are using this Codewiz program code block in place of our usual when click code block from the previous videos. Again, because at the end of the day, we want our Codewiz to be untethered to the computer. So we want it to be programmed to become a portable thermometer. Okay, and then we will also have some of this code block, which is called Init. The Init is, I think, short for initiate. So before we begin our script, we have to initiate this additional peripherals, which is our distance sensor and our Oled panel. So you might also notice that afterwards, after the init OLED code block, you might notice also we have this clear OLED code blocks. What this does is that we want our OLED to reset back to its original blank screen before we take any temperature reading. If we don't have this code block in our script, what will happen is that every time we take a temperature, the temperature reading is going to stay on our OLED, and any subsequent reading afterwards is going to be pasted on top of it. So we want to have this clear OLED code block so that the OLED panel is set back to blank before we can start displaying an additional temperature reading output. And right underneath those code blocks, we have our forever code block. We used that before. And then in addition, we also have this wait until code block. We also set up this distance reading code block, which we've already set for our Codewiz to wait until it has its distance reading of less than 80 in its value in order for the rest of the script to trigger. Our OLED display code block and this print code block that is set to show the temperature reading. So this hexagonal temperature reading code block is the only code block that we are getting from the additional infrared thermometer sensor code block. Not sure if I'm making sense. Once you're done with the script assembly, be sure to switch the Arduino mode on, which is done here, and press upload so that your script can be uploaded into your Codewiz. Okay, this might take a while, but once the prompt says that upload is complete, you are now able to disconnect your Codewiz from your computer and operate it freely, like so. Now, as you can see here, my Codewiz non-contact thermometer is not functioning yet. That is because without the USB cable, there is no power being supplied to the Codewiz. So, however, we remember that we have this battery case strapped onto our grip. All we have to do is just switch this on. Why is it not? Okay everyone, now that you have uploaded your script into your Codewiz sensor board, you have made yourself a non-contact thermometer from scratch using Codewiz and Coding School 3 program. So how it works is that if the sensor board here at the front detects that the object or a person is 8 centimeters or less in front of it, the next part of the script will be triggered, and that means that the infrared scanner will start taking the temperature, and then the temperature will be displayed on the OLED screen here. So that is all for our first project. If you are starting to get familiar with the code blocks and of course the peripheral on your Codewiz, feel free to change it around. I've added in the description the original code that we use during our AIV virtual training program, and you can make changes there and maybe add some more output to your non-contact thermometer. So until then, I'll see you in the second project that we're going to do in the next video. Until then,